Hi, it's Gary Hewitt from Thought Knocks, and I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and in particular what I do for a change. Because for most of my life I've actually worked sort of undercover, if you will, and it's not undercover in the James Bond way or anything like that. Just I haven't been able to talk about the projects that I've done. So I write software. That's kind of my thing. The first piece of software that I wrote actually ran in production for 17 years. The second piece of software that I wrote ran in production for 17 years. The third piece of software that I wrote ran in production for 17 years. Weird kind of pattern there. They were overlapping, of course, at different times. And there were a number of other things that ran for, the better part of a decade. I run the back-end systems, big databases, stuff that has to be there and go. One of the projects sort of lived and died by the second. So I was attached to this pager, back in the days when we had pagers, that if a single query, and they were processing about 80 million queries a day, if a single query took more than 5 seconds with some incredibly short period of time, then I would get paged. And so, I learned to optimize things very well. So the challenge I have right now is that for the first time I'm taking something I've built to market. And this is a completely different experience for me. There's a lot of things I'm floundering like a fish at, and that's okay, because that's the way it's done. You flounder as a fish until you grow legs and manage to jump off a cliff and build a plane that apparently flies before you hit the bottom, or so all the experts tell me. So I'm saying this to sort of explain some of the incongruities. Is if I've been in business so long, why haven't you done this, or why haven't you done that, or whatever? And it's basically because I've been undercover. I've had no need to up until now. So there's a lot of things I'm kind of catching up on, and it's almost embarrassing. At times, some of the things, some of the rough edges that I have, because this is, stuff that somebody else that had been in business and been public facing would have solved and taken care of a long time ago. And the challenge that I have is that I get deeply focused in maker mode, and I don't have time for everything else. And I'm working on changing my mental models around this. I know I need to adapt differently and spend time on other things that are not programming. I get that, but it always feels like that I got to fix this, or I got to add that, or one more feature, and then we'll be there. So that's the sort of internal struggle that I'm going through. And like I say, this channel is about, we're talking about business and life and a whole bunch of things, and of course, because programming is my life, we will talk a little bit about programming. When I get to a certain stage, I plan to set up another channel that is specifically about the nuts and bolts of programming, because I believe I have some value in that area that I may be able to convey to others based on a lot of the code that I run across in the wild. I think to myself, like, okay, that's interesting. And I'm sure some people have said that about my work as well. But I always look at and do the best possible, and iterate and improve. So, like I say, that channel will be dedicated to the specifics, the nuts and bolts about programming. This is dealing with, this channel, Thought Knocks, is going to mention that because that's my life, but I don't want this channel to be strictly about programming. So there are, one of the things I'll bring up is that I have another channel, Microshifting, that's been around for a while, and this is, I don't know, this is getting, what some people call woo-woo, and I understand that, so I never preach or push or anything. But what I've discovered, interestingly enough, is to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail, is that, for all intents and purposes, we run code. Other people's code, what I sometimes refer to it, is, and other people's code is always designed for us to do, what other people want from us. Your goal as a human seems to be, and again, I don't want this to be, a dogmatic or belief, but my current view is that our roles as humans seems to be, examining that code that's inside of us and saying, is that mine? Does that serve me? And can I let it go? How can I let it go? When can I let it go? There's a number of techniques for that. Examining that code and then deciding, what should be there in place of it. Because here's the thing that a lot of people kind of miss, is that you see a lot of healing modalities and whatnot, and when they start using words like extract and cleanse and cut out and so on, and they're sort of mimicking medical practices, and when you realize that A, it's all code, B, we have to run code, you can't be here without running code. It's just a matter of whether that code is the code that you would choose to run, because a lot of it is subconscious. And here's where I think it gets interesting, is if you were to jump in your car and drive down the street, most of what you do is completely unconscious. You learned to drive a car and you installed the software for driving a car so that you jump in the car and you drive the car, and there's nothing to it because it's all running subconsciously. There's nothing wrong with that software as long as you're reasonably paying attention and you always get where you want to go. Then that software is in fact serving you. So when a lot of modalities beat up, the mechanisms inside of you that are running code, I always question the validity of that approach. To me, everything is already perfect. Our job is to figure out what it's perfect for, and whether it is perfect for us. And when you approach that, and I have no more idea whether that's true or not than you do, but when you think like that, it's a thought experiment, and Thought Knocks is literally about thought experiments. When you think about that as a thought experiment, then a lot of things make sense. In all the time I came up with that everything is already perfect, 20 plus years ago, and every time something comes up, I've always asked the question, what is this perfect for? And I've not yet found something that didn't give me an answer. Does not mean that I like the answers, doesn't mean that I wanted those answers, but yes, I always got an answer. So your thought experiment is to do that. Ask that question. When you come across something that you feel is suboptimal, let's put it that way, then ask yourself, what is this perfect for? And then see what bubbles up. And then, ask yourself, things like, is this mine? Does this serve me? Am I willing to let it go? Am I willing to replace it with something else? And so on. So questions like that, when you stop beating the messenger, because bad feelings are just a messenger, and when you beat up the messenger, then the messenger doesn't want to deliver any messages because he always gets beaten up. But when you get a bad feeling and you say, like, thank you, okay, I got the message. I may not like the message, but I got the message. So you can stand down and I'll hopefully be smart enough to process that message and do something intelligent about it. So like I say, that's the thought experiment for today. Do with it what you will. And like I say, programming is in my core, so everything I see as programs. And that metaphor, when you dig deep, it really kind of holds. And I believe there's some value in sharing that. So that's what I'm attempting to do now. All right, so thank you very much, and we'll see you in a future video.